Welcome to Truckee Talks. I'm your host, Maya Schneider, and I'm pleased to bring back to the show Duane Hall, our Truckee Town Planner. Duane, welcome.
Glad to be here.
It's nice to have you back. We've had you on the show a number of times talking about town stuff, and tonight's going to be no different. We're going to be talking about town stuff. But we're going to start with Duane stuff.
Duane stuff.
Okay. Who is Duane, and how do you get to be a town planner? So let's back up to the beginning, not when the earth cooled, but perhaps where you were raised and how you got into planning.
Okay, I'm an Air Force brat, so I moved around a lot, and but basically grew up in Santa Barbara County in California. And from there, I've progressively have moved north. I went to school at Fresno State University, went to the graduate program in City and Regional Planning. And my first job out of Fresno State was in Mariposa County, where our Community Development Director, Tony Lashbrook, also started his career in planning. And I was there for around 7 years, and Tony got the Community Development Director position here in Truckee, and I followed him up around 7 months later.
It wasn't long after the town incorporated that you came on board. You've been here a while.
I've been here since late 1994.
That's great. How do you get interested in planning? I mean, you're a kid, you're growing up, you're playing with trucks and cars and Hot Wheels, and then what?
Well, my undergraduate degree was in geography, so I kind of like to look at everything, especially as a whole or a system. And planning is a profession that you can do that, in which you, as I kind of explained to folks, you know a lot about, or excuse me, a little about a lot, and not a lot about little, because you need to know a little bit of everything on how a city works and the various issues that face its citizens. So you need to be well informed, and that keeps me interested in that. Also, I was looking for a job where I could serve the public, because I think that's a very important part of my career, is being able to help other citizens out in improving their quality of life.
Well, since you've been the town planner for the town of Truckee has changed a lot.
Yes.
What do you think about those changes, and where do you see Truckee going?
Well, Truckee is growing very fast, but that's because it's a very popular place. And so our residents are increasing. Our population growth for the past 20 years has been over 4.5%. And we also have a substantial second homeowner population and also visitors. And so it is changing, and the small town character is changing. And what we're going to be talking about later on the general plan is how do we address that? How do we maintain what is unique and what people like about Truckee while still allowing growth and development to occur as we evolve into a town that right now we're 10 years old, but how are we going to be 20, 30 years from now?
As a planner, your job is to look into the future,
yes,
and try to help guide that process, or at least provide maybe some menu options to the town people to say, here's what the town could look like. How do you want to get there? Right.
Yeah, and in regards to planning, what does a planner do? Very early, I sort of had this list of what a planner does, and they're facilitators, they're moderators, they're analysts, they're educators, and the whole purpose of that is to inform the community of what faces them in the future, and assist them in thinking this is the way we want to grow and develop. And as part of this general plan update, that's what we're going to be doing, is assisting the community in determining how we want to be in the future.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the first general plan. When a town incorporates, as ours did in 1993, you have to adopt a general plan. It's mandated, you got to do it. And the general plan encompasses what? What is it a book of?
The general plan is basically your vision for the community, along with a number of guiding policies and goals of what you want to achieve in your future 20 years from now, and it kind of lists how we expect to achieve that. And back in 1994, when the first general plan took place, we had a very short time frame. We were a newly incorporated city. We were mandated by the state to get our general plan adopted within 2 to 3 years, and there was just a number of critical issues that we wanted to get our hands on. And now, if you ask the question, why are we doing an update? Well, our general plan right now, we have a good general plan. We're constantly referring to it. The community, when they talk about land use, they're constantly referring to the policies. But now we have the opportunity to kind of go back and kind of address issues that weren't addressed to the extent they could have been back in 1994, but it's also to address some new issues that have popped up since 1994, such as we're going to have a bypass. The resort industry is becoming much more important in the region. Our growth rate has been much higher than the general plan anticipated. So one of the things that interested me in coming to Truckee from a planner's was this was a very progressive community, and a community that was very involved. Has indicated that one of the two main reasons why the citizens voted to incorporate was because they wanted to be in control of their destiny, and that's very exciting for a plan to have a community that wants to get involved. And this general plan update is, let's be proactive. Let's do something before we need to, because that's the way we do things in Truckee.
We're going to be talking at some length about the public process and how the public can be involved with this. But let's back up to the original general plan versus today. What are some of the bigger surprises that you couldn't have anticipated 6 or 7 years ago in the development of the first general plan, but that you have to now deal with in this update?
Well, one of the things is the rate of growth. The general plan in 1994 kind of estimated we'd be growing at around 2% per year. And of course, with the latest census figures, we've been growing much quicker, around 4.6%. So, the amount of residential growth is occurring much quicker. We're running out of vacant lots, which we've been relying on for the past 20 years, and so new subdivisions are starting to occur. And I think the other thing is that we identified a number of major areas where development could occur, and these were referred to as the planned communities. And of course, we didn't anticipate all these planned communities and large projects all coming in at once.
We thought, down the pipeline.
We thought they'd be spaced out over the 20 years, and I think that's another thing that's kind of, we didn't anticipate that you'd have planned community 2, and which is the east-west Boca Sierra project coming online. And we got Plan Community 3. They're going to be submitting something very soon. Plan Community 1, which is the old Tykert
by
Donner Park. They're going to be coming in the very near future. We've had proposals on McIver Hill, and that's just in addition to all the other development that's occurring with the infill lots on Donner Pass Road and elsewhere. So it's a lot of development that's occurring, and now it's the kind of time to take a step back and saying, okay, we need to retest our vision. Are we going in the direction where we want to go, and is that where we want to be 20 years from now? And as part of this general plan update, we really haven't set the tone of, is this going to be an overhaul of the general plan? Is it going to be a fine-tuning of the general plan? That hasn't been set yet, because we want to get the community involved in determining what this general plan is going to be.
Well, let's talk about that. You held a kickoff meeting and introduced the general plan update to the public. Tell me about that and how you feel it went, and what was some of the feedback that you got.
Well, we were very encouraged because we saw a number of folks there that we've never seen before in these land use workshops. So people are getting interested, and then they understand how important this general plan update is. And then we also got a lot of input from the folks in attendance as from public input. And the emphasis was, we really need to take the extra step to get the community involved. And the typical public hearings or workshops, we need to do something more, and we need to reach out to the community, one, just to inform them of what's happening, but two, ways to get that information from them and get them involved.
The questionnaires and websites and a lot of different ways of getting a hold of people.
We had a list of possible, what I call, public participation techniques, but in our discussions at that workshop with those members of the community that were there, they came up with some great ideas that we're going to be incorporating into this public participation program. And the general plan update process, we're kind of divided into two phases, phase 1 and phase 2. And on phase 1 is one of the important things is putting together this public participation program. What exactly should it entail, and how extensive it should be. And I believe we've got commitments from the town council as to, as we like to say, we're going to give as much public participation to the community as they're willing to take.
As they can stand.
As they can stand, yes.
Yeah. So what's the next step for you? You held that kickoff meeting, but it's going to be quiet for a little while.
Yes. What we're going to be doing is putting together a request for proposals for 4 consulting firms that have been selected to participate further into the process, and we hope to get some great ideas from them. And we're going to try to get these surveys and questionnaires out to hear back from the community. Once we get that information back, then we'll go back to the Planning Commission and the Town Council, say, here's some great ideas, and here and the proposals that we've received from the consultants. This is how we think the rest of phase 1 should go. And we're looking at phase 1 sort of being a 4 to 6 month process. And at the end of phase 1, we'll know what we want to do in phase 2, and we'll have a much better idea of what it's going to encompass, how long it's going to take, and how the community can get involved.
Has there been a shift in the state politics that may change the outlook or the flavor of this general plan update for the town of Truckee?
From the state, no, I don't believe so. But it's going to be, has anything changed from the local perspective? That may result in changes in the general plan, which may mean we go into a different direction in regards to all the different elements in the general plan. And that's what we wanted to kind of determine, is what is the sentiment of the community in regards to how we're growing and developing, and also addressing all the issues that we face, with traffic being number 1.
What are some of the issues? Land use is, of course, the critical element and the core for the general plan, but you're also looking at economic diversity. You're looking at traffic and circulation patterns. You're looking at really the color and shape of our community, and also how fast it's going to grow or continue to grow. How are those things addressed in a general plan? Well,
the general plan, there's 7 mandatory elements: land use, circulation, conservation regarding natural resources, open space, noise, safety, and housing. And of course, we can add in as many elements as we feel is appropriate for Truckee. Air quality would be an excellent example. We believe that air quality and having healthy air is very important in Truckee. And so it's addressing all those elements, but it's also kind of interlocking those elements. So what you're doing on your traffic circulation side addresses your land use issues and everything. And some of the main issues that we've heard from the community so far is, 1, traffic. Even with the bypass going to be completed next month, still going to be a major issue. Land use, specifically in regards to open space, and kind of preventing sprawl, but not necessarily outside the town limits, but containing development within the town of Truckee, because one of the unique things about Truckee for a town is we've got substantial amount of open space, and so how can we go about preserving that? And then, of course, affordable housing. Well, that was another thing that we've identified since 1994, is that the housing market, we've done a good job on addressing housing for the lower income households. Of course, we've got lots of housing being constructed for the higher income households. It's the folks in the middle class, the working class, where
left out in the cold.
There's going to be left out in the cold, but question is, how can we kind of address that issue? Because it's an important issue in regards to the sense of community, that the people working in the community can also live in the community.
Duane, there are many organizations in our town that are focusing on different elements that you're discussing here. Comes to mind Truckee River Watershed Council, who would be interested in the conservation element. You've got the Workforce Housing Authority of Truckee Tahoe, the WAT group, and they're interested in, of course, affordable housing. How will you interface with those organizations who may be more expert at particular elements of the general plan? How will you pull them into the process, or how will you interface with them?
As part of our surveying questionnaire, one of the things we're asking folks is, who are the major stakeholders in the community in regards to who really has a vested interest in what happens? And of course, everyone in the community has a vested interest in what happens, but there are certain groups or individuals that can represent those views, and whether it's an environmental organization or the Chamber of Commerce or special or interest groups that have a particular focus, such as the Watershed Council, we need to identify those and then find ways, how do we get them just not involved in the process, but how do we extract the information that that's going to be very important in putting together this general plan.
And yet the devil's advocate in me will then ask, well, these are groups that would typically be involved in a process like this. You don't need to invite them. They're going to be banging down your door to be involved. How do you get the other folks? How do you get the families that are driving their kids to soccer practice and holding down 2 or 3 jobs between the 2 working adults who are really just trying to maintain their day-to-day life here? How do you get them inspired to participate in really what is a vision for the town of Truckee?
That's a good question, and a question we haven't answered yet, and so that's why we're asking that question in our survey and say, are there any great ideas out there? But I think it's in regards to getting the information out, one, making sure that they're aware of what's going on, but 2, getting them involved, and that doesn't mean them coming down to town hall at a workshop or a public hearing. It's finding other ways to get them involved. There may be neighborhood meetings where the town comes out to their neighborhood to make it easier for them to participate, and maybe in regards to survey, asking specific questions that, you know, this is the way that we're proceeding. Are we on the right track? Because if you ask specific questions, you'll get specific responses back and everything. But what we're trying to do as part of this public participation is, one, improve the quality of the public participation in people participating in the process, but 2, kind of break down the barriers that that prevent people from participating. And having all the meetings in town hall, that's a barrier, so how can we break that down? Or just allowing input through the public hearing process at the very end, that's a barrier from effective public participation. So just some ideas that we have now is having the community involved at the very beginning, with the first workshop being very successful, and just building upon that, and then identifying specific areas through the process that where the town council has to say, okay, let's take a stop here and ask the community, are we going in the right direction before we proceed any further? Because a lot of folks feel that once you're so far into the process that their input is not of any value because you're so far into the process. So we want to get their input very early on to make sure that we're getting there. And so the end of phase 1 is going to be one of those major checkpoints. Is the general plan covering all the major topics and major issues that you feel need to be addressed in the general plan? And 2, is it going to be extensive enough? Do we need to do a complete overhaul, or can we just do a fine-tune by fixing the problems and addressing issues that weren't adequately addressed in the first general plan?
Are you hearing anything anecdotally or otherwise that might indicate that the vision that the townspeople had for Truckee back in 1993 is different now than it was then? That perhaps newcomers have a different idea of what Truckee should be? Or?
No. In regards to the vision statement, I think the vision statement is still reflective of the community. but it gets down to the policies and how we're actually implementing to get that vision. Because as you know, with a vision statement, you can have two people read that vision statement. Of course, they're going to have two different views. Right. And so once you get down into the finer details, that's where you may come up with the folks not necessarily agreeing. So the question is, and one of the first things we're going to do is retest that vision statement. Is this where we want the community to go? If that's the case, then we'll take the next step, our guiding principles, still addressing where we want to go, and then just keep on going down the line.
What would you do if the direction the community wanted you to take was 180 degrees away from where we'd been? Does the town staff just regroup and start marching down that road, or how would a future council, determine future actions?
Well, that's going to be a big decision for the town council, because general plan updates require an extensive amount of town staff time, but also the community's money in regards to its general fund. I think right now we have $300,000 budgeted, but if the effort is going to be much more extensive, the town council is going to have to make that decision on this is very important for the community, and so it's going to be important to provide the additional funds and effort to make that general plan, because we're looking at something that, although it's for 20 years, it's a 20-year general plan, it's also affecting how your community is going to look 50 years from now, 100 years from now.
Everything we do
and
today.
The first general plan really looked at just the first 20 years. We want to take a look at what happens beyond that, because on preserving open space and designing your streets and your road systems, once you kind of set them, they're set. In downtown Truckee, we're still living with a street system that was set back in 1860.
Of course, sometimes it's one way,
with.
Sometimes it's two way,
yes.
depending on the whim of the current political tide. What's your best hope for the outcome for this general plan process? In a blue sky scenario, what would you like to see?
I think our hope is that we get a general plan in which the community as a whole comes to a consensus that this is the direction that we want to go, with everyone understanding that they're not going to be able to get a general plan that meets all their needs, but it's still a general plan that overall goes in the direction that they believe that the community should go. So we're looking for a consensus among the community, understanding that there is going to have to be some give and take through this process. But ultimately at the end we want a general plan where the community as a whole can stand behind it and saying this is where we want our community to go, rather than having a general plan where the community is split. And Nevada County General Plan and their efforts, we probably want to avoid that and have a consensus at the end of the process.
What we've been watching for the last couple of years is Placer County updating their Martis Valley General Plan, and of course the Martis Valley, you don't realize that there's a political barrier when you step across that county line. It's all one physical region. How is their update going to dovetail with our update, or will it?
In regards to timing, we don't know when the Martis Valley Community Plan will be adopted. We think it'll be adopted before our general plan update is completed. So, and they're going in their own direction. What we can do as part of our general plan update is to ensure that the consequences and the results of their plan are properly addressed in our plan. And
so we may be adjusting our sales based on what they do.
Right, and even before the Martis Valley Community Plan is adopted, we're going through efforts with Placer County to do regional planning in certain issues where it makes sense, such as air quality and traffic. And we still have that opportunity as part of the Martis Valley Community Plan, is to kind of address those regional issues. And incorporate that into our general plan update process.
We'll keep our fingers crossed that we can continue to have dialogue with Placer County as well.
Yes.
And dovetail those two things. Duane, thank you. This has been very, very helpful. I want to remind the audience that they can get a hold of Duane Hall or anybody at Town Hall at 582-7700. And also, the town does have a website, and you may email your elected representatives as well as the town by going to townoftruckee.com, and you can see that on your screen there. So again, telephone number 582-7700. Town Hall, located out on Truckee Airport Road, out the old Bank of the West building. And stop by, call.
And just wanted to add that we do have 2 questionnaires available on Truckee's future and public participation, and we also have a newsletter on the general plan update. And if you would like a copy, just give Town Hall a call.
Great. Duane Hall, thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome.
All right. We'll be back in just a minute with upcoming events, so stay tuned. Welcome back to Truckee Talks, and now we'll give you upcoming events in and around our region for the week starting Wednesday, September 19th. On September 21st, you can join your neighbors for an old-fashioned ice cream social. The seniors are putting this one on at the Senior Center from 1:30 to 4:30 in the afternoon. You can enjoy sundaes, banana splits, or a real malt at the Senior Center. This event will benefit the Senior Meals Program, so you're eating ice cream for a good cause, as though I needed a reason. Call 587-2408 for more information. Go out there and support the seniors. After that, you can head out to the village at Squaw for their first annual Oktoberfest and Brouhaha to benefit the Tahoe Forest Hospital Foundation. This event will run from 3 to 7 p.m. and will feature 11 specialty breweries, plus Bavarian food, strolling entertainment, and more. Oompa music. Tickets are $15 at the gate and include a commemorative glass. Call 584-1000 for information. September 21st is a big day. You can also enjoy a free concert and family picnic at the Truckee Regional Park for Peace One Day. This event was highlighted in last week's show and includes free music, fun stuff for the kids, food, and more. Or on September 21st, the annual Barbershop Show returns to the Truckee High School Auditorium at 7 p.m. The theme this year is For All the Girls, and tickets are available at Eagle Mortgage, Florian's Fine Wines and Specialty Foods, or call Larry for more information at 582-1743. Also, the Tahoe Hopper Mountain Bike Festival will be held at Squaw Valley, USA on September 21st and the 22nd. Spectators are welcome for all events, and hey, make a day out of it on Saturday and visit the Brouhaha after the mountain bike races. And it's worth mentioning that Street Vibrations returns to Reno, which also means some motorcycle viewing in Truckee from the 25th through the 29th, and the Genoa Candy Dance will be the 28th and 29th. Of course, the Wolverines come back to Surprise Stadium on Saturday the 28th. You don't want to miss our local football games. I want to thank Ted Owens for hosting last week's show at the last minute, and to Duane Hall for being our guest today. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week.